It's clear that housing prices are too high, gas prices have been too high, and groceries have been too high. We have to bring down the high cost of living for everyday Americans and make sure that we are there for people who are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. That's the clear lesson in terms of additional decisive action that we need to work on with the fierce urgency of now. Not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans. We have to deal with the fact that for far too many people, the great American middle class dream has either slipped away or is viewed as being out of reach.
While we have only gotten a few of the nominations to Donald Trump's cabinet, they have already been disastrous. We see MAGA cultists and hardliners who want to attack our country. We see a weekend Fox host being nominated to head up the Department of Defense. But of all of these nominations, the worst came tonight, because Donald Trump announced in a post on True Social that he is carving out a special place in his administration for not just Elon Musk, but VC Ramos as well. Yes, the Department of Government Efficiency is happening, and it should scare us all, not only because Donald Trump owes Elon Musk, and so he's going to allow him to slash the bureaucracy in whatever way benefits him and his rich friends, but because of a recently resurfaced video of Elon, which is actually backfiring on Trump, and we are going to get into that all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really means the world to me now. Before we go any further with this video of Elon, which is recently resurfacing, we have to check out what Trump said about them in this Truth Social post. Right here, Donald Trump wrote an official statement. I am pleased to announce that the great Elon Musk, working in conjunction with American patriot VC Ramaswamy, will lead the Department of Government Efficiency together. These two wonderful Americans will pave the way for my administration to dismantle government bureaucracy, SL excess regulations cut, wasteful expenditures, and restructure federal agencies essential to the Save America movement. This will send shockwaves through the system and anyone involved in government waste, which is a lot of people stated Mr. Musk, Donald Trump, Elon, and VVAC want to frame this as getting rid of wasteful spending, cutting red tape, deregulating, making things easier for business, but that's not what this is. This is an opportunity for VC and Elon to take a machete to the bureaucracy, cut out anything that helps everyday Americans, and make sure they can go after their enemies from within the government. That is what this is about. Like VP Harris said, Donald Trump has an enemies list. She had a to-do list. I wish we had went with the to-do list. And if you don't believe me about how crazy the ideas of Musk are and VC, of course, before we get into that resurfaced video of Elon, I want to take a look at what VC said he would want this Department of Government Efficiency to do so crazy, and fact that Jesse Waters laughed at him. Let's take a look.
The dirty little secret is a lot of these agency heads, they're really themselves just the figureheads. If you get many of those people speaking candidly, what they will tell you is in their multi-thousand person organizations, they don't even have power in what really occurs. It's 3-4 layers down these organizations. So I personally believe, this is my opinion, I think we need a 75% headcount reduction across the board. What Elon did to Twitter, what countless other business leaders do to failing companies, that's what we need to do to this failing federal bureaucracy. The mass deportation of millions of illegals from this country, I favor it. But the mass deportation I really favor is millions of unelected federal bureaucrats out of Washington, D.C. That's how we get this country back.
Can we put you in charge of that? Can you just go in there and just shed 20% of the bureaucracy?
I'm talking 75%.
75%, all right.
That was a core premise of my presidential candidacy. But I would say President Trump shares that same spirit. When he said drain the swamp, that's part of what he meant. Now, one of the things to know, Jesse, is the Supreme Court has given us some great precedents this year. A president has never been more armed to actually take down this bureaucracy than he has been right now. So to those who will say, why didn't President Trump do it in 2017? Well, the answer is he didn't have the legal and constitutional toolkit that the Supreme Court has now given us. So I think it's a unique moment in our history.
It is, and he'll have a mandate if he's reelected. Thank you very much.
So Vac, much like Elon, and certainly Donald Trump, are always focused on firing people and wanting to get rid of 95% of government employees is just laughable. Even Jesse Waters was laughing at him when Jesse Waters thinks an idea is too right-wing, too extreme, too crazy. You know, you've lost it. And Elon is a perfect example of someone who's clearly not good at trimming the fat or firing people, because his mass firings at Twitter not only destroyed the value of the company, but if anyone is still on that platform, which unfortunately I am, it is a much worth war product. These two people have no idea what they're doing. They are just angry and out for vengeance and out to serve themselves. And of course, that's true of Elon. I said it before and I'll say it again. He has different intentions than Donald Trump, and he made those clear in a video that recently resurfaced about what he thinks his actual role in the White House is.
So if you were, well, you can't be president of the U.S. last time I checked, right? But assume you are.
Not officially.
Not officially. Okay, so you're the unofficial president.
Elon Musk wants to be a shadow president. An unofficial president, just because he was laughing doesn't mean he was joking. He is telling the truth. Elon wants to be in as much power as possible. He wants to have complete control. And that's why he bought off Donald Trump. That's what he's about. He is about serving himself, which I guess him and Donald have that in common. But Elon is not working to cut government efficiency. He is working to make sure he can enrich himself as much as possible. And he's got a long list of enemies too, and he's going to be going after them. And this is incredibly damaging to Donald Trump because it makes him look weak, really. It makes him look how he is really just a puppet for the rich to do whatever they want. Well, he complains and attacks his enemies, and of course, that should scare us, but it also kind of EMAs 80s Donald Trump. If Elon thinks he can just work around him, I expect a lot of anger to come out of that relationship very soon. But in the meantime, we have to focus on our path forward, and that's exactly what Hakeem Jeffrey was talking about on Ari Melber's show tonight. And I want to take a look at that.
Can you give us a peek into this? You are a leader of the party. Do you think this is a inflation thing or a wrong candidate thing, or maybe there needs to be larger soul searching?
I think it's definitely clear that the economy, inflation, and to a lesser extent, issues connected to the border played an outsized role in how many voters made their electoral decisions, particularly as it relates to their support for the former president. I don't think there's enough evidence at the House level or at the Senate level to suggest that this was an anti-incumbent thing when 90% of our 31 battleground incumbents outran the national environment and are on their way back to the United States House of Representatives. That's not an anti-incumbent wave, because the overwhelming majority of them would have been swept away. And that's a credit to our incredible incumbent frontline House members who connected with the people that they represent, have a vision for the future, focused on the kitchen table pocketbook issues that matter, and have been reelected. I think it's also fair to say that when you look at the battleground situation that occurred at the Senate level, and far be it from me to speak for my colleagues in the United States Senate, but it is clear that you had multiple battleground states where Democratic incumbents, or in the case of Alyssa Slotkin and Ruben Gallego, two House members, we're very proud of them, were elected to the United States Senate on a very tough night. So I think we have to make sure that we are clear-eyed and authentic and unadulterated in how we assess what happened, so that we can engineer a comeback on behalf of the American people and protect the things that matter, our American values, protect our institutions, protect our freedoms, and protect the way of life in terms of the middle class and all those who aspire to be part of it. But we also, I think, can't be hysterical in our assessment that this was some anti-incumbent wave that knocked down Democrats all across the country when the facts actually say something very different.
Congressman, we've had these conversations. I am curious what you say to someone who might be open-minded or even lean towards agreeing with you that there should be a constitutional republic, co-equal democracy, co-equal branches. But in the political scenario we're in, A, they may control the executive and both branches of the legislature, both parts. B, you see what the Supreme Court has done. That's out of your control, but they've written him a license to do most things. And then C, the Republican Party, which once stood for more limited government and co-equal checks, they seem to be having auditions for their own Senate leader, according to Donald Trump's demands that they give up Senate powers, like the power to advise and consent and confirm nominees. Now, that's the upper branch, not your branch. But what do you say to someone tonight, Congressman, who looks at all that and says, I guess this whole experiment is coming to an end, and if the Democrats don't even have subpoena power in the House, then we're going to have a kind of strong person rule, at least in the short term. What do you say to that person? Is that just a clear-eyed problem to look at, or is that cynical? What do you say to them?
We've been on a 248-year journey as a country, and there have been trials and tribulations, twists and turns throughout. There is no doubt. We cannot sugarcoat it. That last Tuesday's result was a setback in the eyes of tens of millions of Americans, including many of the people that I'm privileged to represent back home in Brooklyn. But a setback, in my view, is nothing more than a setup for a comeback. And we've got to make sure that, as has always been the case, whenever America confronts adversity, we come back through the moment to come out stronger on the other side. And that's what we're committed to do as House Democrats on behalf of the American people. Not Democrats, independents, and Republicans, on behalf of the American people.
These are dangerous individuals who we have to work to combat, who we have to work to stop from attacking our government. And we know that's their aim. We know that's their goal. We know that's what they're after. They're after enriching themselves. They're after going after their enemies. That's their focus. And we tried to communicate that to voters. And it is unfortunate that they didn't listen, because I don't want to say it, but it's true. Now a lot of people are unfortunately going to learn a very difficult lesson about what happens when you allow complete corruption to take over our government, because that's what Elon's about. That's what VC is about. And as we saw for 4 years, that for some reason millions of Americans forgot, that is what Donald Trump is about. But we have to push back against them every single day. We have to continue to fight and continue to work to make sure that Donald, Elon, and VC do not completely destroy this country. And hopefully in the process, they destroy their own relationships. And we see more of that, the MAGA civil war, than anything else. But we can't just hope. We got to work. And that's what we're going to be talking about on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you're stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.